Hello and welcome to Anatomy of Us. I'm your host, Melanie Studley.
What is up, my friends? My name is Seth Studley. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist and a high-performance marriage coach along with Melanie. And thank you for joining us today. If this is the first time you've joined us, we have over 500 episodes of high-performance marriage content, interviews, real stuff, our story of growth mindset, of failure also, because that's a part of it. And so you're here for real help for real couples, and we're glad you joined us.
Absolutely. Did you have a review you wanted to read?
I do. Okay. The review of the day. Best podcast ever. That's all we need.
Okay.
5 stars. Love listening to a couple doing real life together. Listen every week and love it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Racine Evo. So you guys do what Racine Evo did. Go and rate and review the show. It kicks us up notches in Apple iTunes and helps us spread the show.
Yeah.
And we get more exposure to do more of this.
Yeah, even if like one episode has helped you or 3 or 7, just go and rate it on iTunes. It helps us a ton, for real. So our question today is, it might be 2 parts. I'm not exactly sure. And forgive me because I'm reading it and I'm a poor reader.
Question of the day.
Question of the day. From a listener, it says, I have thought for some time that my husband has erectile dysfunction. I have mentioned it before at his last doctor's appointment, and he brushed me off. I used to think it only happened when he would drink. Then, with no alcohol, it seemed to not work properly as well, but he would have reasons why it didn't work. He was distracted, etc. Selfishly, I want him to get some help. I can only imagine how sensitive a subject this is for a man, and I want to honor him and not hurt him. How do I kindly bring this up in a loving way and not get dismissed? My husband is in his 50s. I am in my 40s. We've been together for over 20 years. Most of our marriage could be considered sexless. Maybe 4 to 6 times in a year. And so that is something really important to take into consideration as well, into context. So right out of the gate, what are your thoughts from like a therapeutic perspective if you see this in clients or deal with this? What would you immediately think of to handle it?
Usually I would look at other factors that I would ask. Okay, you said that drinking affected it. If that's been a pattern for a long time, okay, we're going to have to do... obviously no drinking, and so cut out the drinking, which she said she did. I would look at other factors, anxiety, stress, any kind of stuff that's going on there. And then of course you have to go to the biological factors, right? Lady said that the dude is 50 or in his 50s, right? So there might be other biological factors like prostate stuff, all kinds of stuff. And
I don't have a wiener, so I don't know about these things.
Well, I do, so it's a thing. And so that's what I would look at. But mainly, I would want to go to the stress and anxiety level. So coming at it from a therapeutic perspective and not a physically therapeutic perspective, I'd be like, okay, what has been on your mind? What is on your mind? What kind of stress or anxiety are you carrying throughout the week? When couples come into my office, oftentimes I kind of couch things like this, depression, PTSD, stress, anxiety, all this stuff. I'm like, you know what? Life can be pretty hard sometimes. And if this is the first time you've ever come into my office, which is the first time couples come in or people come in, I say, you know what? We all have a backpack on our back, right? And stress, we go through a lot of BS, grief, stress, trauma, blah, 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 everything. It's like rocks being put into our backpack. And when you wear a backpack that's heavy for 6 months, what do? You get used to it. You acclimate to it, right? We have a 16-pound weighted vest, right? And I used to run and stuff with it. You take it off. I mean, after a while, you get used to it. But then you take it off, you're like, oh my gosh,
I'm floating.
I can move my shoulders, right?
Right.
And oftentimes, stress, anxiety, depression, things like that are because of what we've been carrying around. But oftentimes, we're so used to it, right? And then when we become used to it, we dismiss, now this is good, when we are accustomed to something, we dismiss the dysfunction that it produces. Understand what I'm saying? So it's like, oh, well, that's just how it is. No, it wasn't always like that. We're so used to it, and now we're having ED or having stress or, I mean, you knew this, but did you know like eczema can flare up from stress and anxiety?
Yes.
A skin, oh, wait a minute, my hand is itching. Oh, you're stressed. What? You're crazy. You're tripping.
Yeah.
No, but it's all related, right?
Yeah, and that's why a rash or sort of like an ointment won't help your eczema if its source is your anxiety.
Right. If it's stress and anxiety, what you're thinking about. Remember what we focus on expands. And if we're so used to focusing on the negative, something that we don't want, it just becomes like a water, like fish in a water pile.
A water pile.
Fish in water.
That sounds
right?
amazing.
It's the water we swim in. It's just daily life.
Yeah.
Understand? So I would look at that component of this, and I do want to point out something. This wife said, "Hey, this seems selfish, but." I'm going to be kind of crass here, but if I couldn't get a boner and you were concerned about it, would you consider that to be selfish?
No, not at all.
No. You'd be like, that probably sucks for him.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot to that. Even like if there's anything that you would have a problem with, if you had eczema, I would be concerned about it, not out of selfish reasons. Like, I don't want this guy to have eczema. It'd be like, I want him to be happy.
Right.
I want him to feel like he's at his peak in everything, whether it's a skin condition or erection condition.
So there is a very loving way that you could do this. And this exercise is this is helpful. Flip it. So I'm talking to the lady right now. Flip it. If you had a sexual problem, again, I'll be crass. Like, just say that you couldn't, how do I say this?
Anorgasmia?
No, not have an orgasm. Say that you couldn't get wet even or something like that. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I want you to be able to, right? Number one, because it's fun. But that's not a selfish thing.
Yes.
I feel that you may be self-conscious about that. Like,
Yeah.
Okay, he's want to have sex, but I can't do this. And it's a physical problem.
Right.
I would want to walk you through, like, okay, let's rule out anxiety, stress. I mean, honestly, maybe it's something that maybe I'm not doing. Maybe I'm just like in a weird bad vibe
Yard
all the time.
work. It's probably yard work.
Yeah, yard work. You can't get wet because I don't cut the grass.
Yes. We figured it out.
Jeez, we're not making fun of this.
No, we're not.
But put yourself in your own shoes, and how would you want your husband to approach you lovingly? Like, oh man, okay, I know he might be thinking this way about it. Well, what would I want said to me that wouldn't make me feel shamed, number one, self-conscious, and I would want to be reassured that it's okay. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I had ED and I'm like, oh, this sucks. I'm thinking about it, blah, blah, blah. This is stressful. How would I would want full, kind, loving acceptance and understanding. You know what I'm saying? And that's just, I mean, geez, who wouldn't want full, kind, loving, understanding, and acceptance in a relationship, right?
Yeah, but oftentimes we're not taught how to do that or how to do that in situations like this. And I think there's something that I want to bring up, and you can help me make sure that it's correctly being used here. But I think of like a psychosomatic, this is a psychosomatic response, potentially. Not now, we don't want to exclude anything that's biological, meaning like what is the thing you said? Not testosterone, but prostate stuff. Like there can be biological, like body reasons that you could have erectile dysfunction. But on the other side, kind of like what Seth was saying, but the term is psychosomatic, meaning it actually, I'll just read it, of a physical, so it's caused or aggravated by a mental factor such as internal conflict or stress. So that's a physical illness that is made worse or caused by your thoughts, right? So let's say it as clearly as possible.
No, I would say it's backwards of that. It's a
physical
manifestation of an internal thought.
You're going against Webster here.
Oh.
You gonna rewrite the dictionary?
Well, does Webster have a master's degree? I don't think so.
Who knows? No one could ever know that. But that's the way that I want to think about it, is that a lot of times things like this, and this applies to men or women, it doesn't matter, all sorts of different things. The more you think about it and stress about it and have anxiety, especially if it's caused a problem in the past, like if I know, let's go back to this scenario that I can't self-lubricate, I think is the term for getting wet. Like if Seth was like, made a weird comment about it, and then I felt super self-conscious about it, and then it got even worse, because then when we went to have sex, everything shuts down because I'm stressed out, I'm going to fail, it's not going to work, it's going to blah. And so that cycle begins just making it worse, right? And so in this scenario, again, it is important to know that this marriage has very little sex in it, because that means that there are so few touch points of intimacy, of sexual intimacy, that those few times a year, it's like all bets are on. Like everything, you're like, it's got to work, because we've only got, we've got 3 more months till this happens again, or 6 more months till this happens again.
Right. So then there's even performance anxiety, right?
Yeah.
And there's all kinds of things. And I'm thinking back to the intimacy retreat that we went to in Denver, Colorado. Like nobody knows where Denver is. The United States, North America, Northern Hemisphere, Earth. Hung out with other people with shoulders.
Okay, keep on.
The actual just exercises in that. And what was it not focused on? For the first 2.5 days, it was not focused on penetration or orgasm.
Yes.
Right? So it was just emotional
like it had opposite
support,
focus of that.
all kinds of crazy touch and exercises. And it was amazing.
But when you say crazy, people probably think like weird pervy stuff. He means crazy like intimate in terms of like washing someone else's feet. Yeah, you like record scratch, right?
Giving each other a bath.
Yeah, but not actually having sex. And so that brings the
do.
level. That's the point. That's
I know.
The point of the whole thing is that you're flipping around what people think sex and intimacy should be and making it really, really focused on all of the other types of connection, all of the other ways that will. So when you're washing your partner's feet and you're at a beautiful resort and you've had beautiful food and you're whatever, like you're doing this really physical act, but it's not sexual in nature at all. But all of a sudden it starts to elicit sexual feelings. You start to be like, well, I could do that, but you're not allowed to, right? So it's this, it's a really cool experiment. And it does, I think, bring in a lot of wisdom that maybe this couple could try to work on is don't even worry about sex. Do something that does not end in penetrative sex that helps you feel connected. It's beautiful, it's close, it's intimate. But I mean, if you're only having sex a few times a year, that even in and of itself probably seems terrifying. I could imagine that feels really anxiety.
Why would it be terrifying? For who? The
for
man
both
or
of them.
woman?
I imagine that if having sex that infrequently is a part of your regular routine, you're not used to connecting at a really, really deep level.
Oh,
that's my
I see.
assumption. I could be wrong.
It'd be so like elements of stage fright and nervousness would come up. It's like, whoa, wait a minute, I don't know. This is weird.
Yeah. And it does sound so there's like 1,000 things I want to say, but I do want to get back to the question is how do I talk to my husband about this? Like how do I bring this up without it being weird? So the energy is the most important part about this is your energy and not your energy for correction, not your energy for you have a problem, you need to fix it, you need to go to the doctor, but an energy of like we have, I wouldn't even say a problem. Like, hey, I don't
have a problem.
Huh?
No, go ahead.
Did you, what?
Go ahead.
What? You got tickled.
What's the problem?
What? You've so confused me.
You said we have a problem.
No, I meant them.
Oh.
The couple. What planet were you on?
Don't know.
What hemisphere?
Northern.
I guess. So what I was saying was, I would want, so let's say this is us and I'm trying to tell Seth that he, I acknowledge this problem that he's got and he has an erectile dysfunction or whatever. And I want him to go to see a doctor. This is how I would want to do this and how I would recommend for you. So don't say something like, you have a problem. I think it's the worst. Go to the doctor. You're bad. Like, don't say anything like that.
Right.
Don't say anything like, if you stop doing this, it would be better. I wish you didn't have that problem. Because if you didn't, like, don't do any of this sort of like punitive, militaristic, like pointing fingers. The energy I would want you to have is like a sweeping up with your partner toward health. That's the best way I can think of it. This also works with anything else, your kids, your job, like it's an energy shift on purpose for a purpose. Does that make sense? And so if you were struggling with that and it was causing problems in our sex life, I would probably say something along the lines of like, again, not while you're actually trying to have sex, a different time. And probably I would write it in an email so that it could be really thoughtfully written. It wasn't spoken clumsily or with bad words that didn't make sense and weren't filtered. Right. So I would write an email and say, hey, sweetheart, so number one, we're going to do the AOU sandwich. So we're going to start with the nice things first. So you've probably heard maybe people talk about this idea with a different name, but it's basically you're going to talk about a problem, but you're going to put 2 sandwich slices of kindness and like gratitude on the top and the bottom. And the middle is where you're going to talk about the thing that you want to work on or change or address, but it's going to be couched and put into nice things. So I would start my email by saying, hey, sweetheart, I love you so much. I'm super thankful for all the years that we've been married and all the things that we've been through. Thank you, whatever. And then you go into, there's something I want to address and I'm sure it's probably frustrating or whatever. And say something along the lines of, I want to help work on this with you because I know it matters to you and it matters to me. And you can say, it matters to me. That's okay to say, as long as it's not like weird. And then I would recommend you say, is there something that I can do to help? Like, whether that's, I will help find a place to take to the doctors, or I will whatever. Like, what other recommendations can you think of? Even like, I will help. I will read up on this. Let's look into your diet. Let's look into.
Do some research about it, all kinds of stuff. And knowing that, hey, I support you here too.
Yeah.
And so if you are saying I support you, you also have to be willing to look at and explore possible ways that you may have contributed to this.
Right.
Ooh.
For sure. And that's what I was going to say too. Like, if you're saying I support you in doing whatever it takes, and he tells you, well, I'm like this. I feel like I'm like this because you're mean, or you're not nice enough, or snappy, or not soft, or you're really rough.
Or maybe there's some repair. Like the first time that this happened, which is no fault of my own, it was a really big deal, and you
made me feel bad. Especially
said a
if
joke
drinking,
about it or something.
If
or
drinking is involved too.
Right.
There could be a lot of hurt, because if it's like a mutual, like we were both drunk and this happened, it could very well be that you may have said like really mean things or teased him. I don't know. So
right. So just be willing to explore that there may be ways that you have contributed to the problem. So if you say, yeah, I support you and I want you to get this better, you have to truly mean that. Not just like, hey, I support you, now go
fix it.
do all the stuff yourself.
Yeah.
That's not it, right? So let's rule out anything physical.
Well, hold on. We're still writing our letter.
Okay,
right?
still writing the letter.
I'll support you and whatever. And if there's something that I need to work on, please let me know what it is, and I promise that I'll work on it. That kind of thing. And you have to give each other the allowance and freedom to say, like, and you say this in the letter, like, I know this is hard, but I really want to know what things I have done to maybe make this worse. Please tell me, and I won't get mad at you. And you've got to really not get mad, right? That's a really hard thing to do, but you're both being vulnerable in a new way, right? So then that's the sort of main ingredients of your AOU sandwich. And now we're going to put the last bread piece on, which is the nice stuff again, right? So thank you for being such a good husband. And if you guys have kids, thank you for being a great dad. I look forward to figuring this out with you and like starting this new adventure together or whatever. Like, your energy of positivity, love, concern, care, attunement, gentleness goes a really long way in all of this. And I want to make sure too that you understand, and he understands, that this is not about the performance of an erect penis. That's not the whole vibe of what sex is. That's not what all that sex is. And so if you two can generate a new level of intimacy that does not center around that, even if it takes 6 months of doing other intimate acts. And again, that don't think of just sex. Think of like kissing and hugging and cuddling, and you could take a bath together. You could massage each other's feet. There's tons of things that feel really beautifully close, but aren't sex, right? So focus on those things also in this journey. And sex might spring from that sort of new, deeper level of connection, attunement, love, and care. If that makes sense. I like how I said that.
100%. And what if we treated this as, okay, say that it is a physical problem. How would we treat, and this is funny because men's mental health has historically been deeply stigmatized, you know, like, oh, I'm depressed or anxious. Like, okay, I'm not a man. What's wrong with me? I'm just going to like silently suffer,
right?
Kind of thing. Like that's endemic, right? But if I broke my leg or anything, I went to the doctor. I had to go to physical therapy for 6 months. It was a really bad break. Oh, bro, glad you're okay.
Yeah.
You know, and then punch in the arm or something, right? So we have the mental health and then the physical problem, which ED, although there are large psychological components of it, it could just be a physical problem. But we're not treating it as a physical problem. At least a guy would not interpret it as like, I can't even get a boner. What's wrong with me? Oh, it's because of my corpus. What is it? Corpus cavernosa. There's three things.
Chambers in
the chambers, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, because this thing isn't getting enough blood flow.
Yeah.
And that's all. As if it's just a part. It's a part of your body, right? So that's just that's interesting to me. Like, okay, treat it as if it was my kneecap that needed fixing or physical therapy or anything like that. Right. Of course, be respectful and such. And I don't want the wife or other listeners to go, he can't get a boner. He must be not attracted to me anymore. Right. Because we don't turn a him problem, which is a us problem, into a me problem, then further shame, right? Oh, well, you just think I'm stupid and ugly and fat. It's
Right.
like, no, that's not it at all. Right? But the more you say it, the more I get.
Yeah.
You know?
I think the clearest way to say that is make it about what it's about. And that takes some time to uncover, right? So I think of like a root of a tree. Roots go down so far, so much farther than we realize. And I only know because I've had to pull up some trees in our day. And it's like, how much longer can this stinking root go down? And they're hard to get out and all of that stuff. But in this scenario, you guys need to get to the actual root of the problem so that we're not guessing. We're not like making up stuff because we think it must be about something else. He must not love me, or he's got this, or it's just a mental thing. Like, we don't want to pretend that we know or fake that we know. We want to actually know. And so that takes time and sitting down and going, I wonder, like, if you could wave a magic wand, actually, husband, if you're listening to this, and wife, tell him to do this if he's not, but husband, if you're listening to this and I could wave a magic wand and fix this problem, where do you think it would trace back? Like, if you're like, oh, she's waving a magic wand, now I can get an erection because I'm not worried that my wife is mean to me? That there's pressure to have an erection? Like, what is it? See if you can answer that question, and it will tell you more about what this problem is from. And if it's like nothing, like it's totally fine, I used to be able to get them and now I don't, then it might actually be like a biological issue. And I would, again, for the wife who's asking, how do I handle this? How do I talk to my husband about it? Invite that conversation in a loving, warm, receptive, kind atmosphere. Like, you are the creator of that atmosphere, and it's your job to like set a safe table for this. I'm going to use a really weird analogy, and it's going to sound weird in the context of this conversation, but bear with me. So we have kids, right? And my two sons are 15 and 16 now or something, or 14 and 16. When they were littler and I needed to talk about something challenging with them, if I came in guns a-blazing and was mad at them, what would happen? Yeah, it was not going to go well.
Right.
So I learned as a parent, the softer I could bring an issue up to my kid, no matter what it was, whether it's being nice to their brother or cleaning their room or whatever, making their bed, the better of a response I would get. And I actually set the stage for their response, which most people don't understand and know or think about.
Gottman calls that a soft startup.
Which I think that seems slightly confusing because you're not starting it. I'm setting the stage for it. It's like I'm bringing the stage into the room with me and going, okay, this is what your therapist buddies call it, the container, which I always think is so weird. Their container store. This is a container.
Holding space.
This is a holding space. This is the container. Sometimes therapy language makes me want to spit
vom.
Nails. Yeah, vom. But
sometimes, but it is all based.
It's great,
in real
but
things.
sometimes it's weird. Like they say it too frequently is weird. But anyway, so you're setting the stage for like how everyone's gonna act. So if you again come up to your husband and say, you've got a problem with this and I'm sick of it and you're going to go blah, like you're setting the stage for this is a battle. Like we're in a fight scene now. Right. But you can also set the stage for, I want to reach new levels of connection with you. And I'm sorry that this is how it's been. And I'm sorry that we only have sex 3 or 4 times a year. Like I really want to change this. And now you've set the stage for it to be, a thing that you guys can get victory in together. Does that make sense? Now you're setting the stage for like, what's that called? Like deeper connection, your camaraderie, like, and it sounds silly.
You've joined.
Yeah. You're
right?
joining forces.
You're aligning yourself with the problem or with an issue in your marriage. Okay. So it's not just him fighting it. It's both of you. And then hopefully him feeling the support that you're giving, like will be like a notch in the step towards healing, right?
Yeah. Yes. And I do want to say before we wrap up on this question that, again, I go back to this idea. We've had several clients who have what you would consider like a sexless marriage. They only have sex like once a year, twice a year, 4 times a year, that kind of thing. And the way that I see that, and I would love your thought and take on this as well, is that it highlights a fear of intimacy or like a lack of knowing how to do intimacy well. And when I say intimacy, I do not mean sex, because I don't think very often that these clients are snuggling. I don't think that these clients are like holding each other's hands and sitting there lovingly. There tends to be a lot of tension around just being vulnerable together in the same space on purpose. Would you agree with that?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that this erectile dysfunction is probably like a result, a product of like a lack of knowing how to just be like here. Like if you're watching this on YouTube, I'm touching Seth. Like I'm just touching him and it's okay. And I think if you are in a marriage where you don't touch that often, there's like a tension around just being and seeing and touching and looking and whatever, that might be the best place to start. But again, not from we have a problem, but how can we fix this? Like what could we do? Maybe it is that we schedule every single week. Oh my gosh, every single week we sit down and we watch TV together and we hold hands and we rub each other's feet and we rub each other's shoulders for 30 minutes every week. Maybe that's how we start this process of knowing how to touch lovingly, knowing how to just be. What are your thoughts on that? I want to hear them. Say them to me now.
I think it's a very practical solution to a common problem, right? So, like Dr. Corey Allen from Sexy Marriage Radio, or it's changed names now. Right?
I can't remember, but it was that.
Anyway, Dr. Corey Allen, he's super cool. You guys go check him out. Talks about how we do sex is how we do life. Ooh, right? So if you overlay it, like from a clinical perspective, it's like, and maybe I'll like try to get deep here, but in a fun way. Okay, I can't get an erection. I can't get it up. I can't step up. I can't bring myself to this certain place of vulnerability because there's all these things that are holding me back, right? Oh, wait a minute. Okay, now when we look at it in, am I a person that does scary things? Am I a person that gets out of my comfort zone? Or am I like, well, she has been this way and we've only had sex for, X amount of times a year for a lot of years. It is this way. I'm not willing to step up to change that. Okay, it is what it is kind of thing, right? And if you have that attitude, you probably have that attitude towards other things in your life, right? So I would say maybe your prescription here, hey, sit together 30 minutes. I would say more than 30 minutes. Rub each other's shoulders, touch feet, I don't know, whatever, get under a blanket together and just sit kind of like hip to hip while you watch a show or something. Just do that. Maybe you haven't done that in a long time. Maybe he's like, well, I used to try that 5 years ago, but you, I don't know, did something weird and now I'm just like, blah, forget it, right? Yeah, so I like that. I like that idea, and I am one for really getting out of your comfort zone any chance you can get. Why? Because you can't grow without being, you can't grow being comfortable. Yeah. Right? So I don't want this couple to be resigned of like, well, okay, he can't X, Y, Z. Like, oh, well, she can't get wet, so I guess sex is over, right? And if you're thinking that way, you're only 50. Holy cow. You know how much sex I want to have after I'm 50? A zillion. A zillion sexes. Right? So if you are thinking that way, then you're in a negative spiral that's going to go down, down, and down, and you have less sex, feel less connected, and get possibly even more depressed, right? So everything is connected to everything in that. So I do like you saying, yeah, do something different. Schedule sitting on the thing together, right? Invite one another. Yeah. Invite, because the lady wrote in, like invite your husband to do that. Hey, I just want to sit. Yeah, and I think too, there's one last thing is there's a common thread I'm thinking as I'm thinking about the clients that we've had who've dealt with similar things, and the common thread that I've seen is there tends to be an injury, like an emotional injury that started all of it, and it sort of like started the ball rolling of we don't connect, we don't have sex. It's either someone said something or tried something or blamed someone. So there's like an insult, an injury that happens that kind of gets the ball rolling, and then it's perpetuated. But usually one or both of the spouses have this idea in their mind that it's supposed to be different. Like it's like my wife was supposed to want sex all the time, or my husband was supposed to know that I like X, Y, and Z things. So there's a really, a very strong underlying assumption or unspoken expectation that is usually at the core of a lot of these relational, sexless marriages and that kind of thing. And another, I think, correlation, which I would be totally curious to see if there's data on this. I don't know how you would do this, but if the wife is particularly either masculine or domineering, like strong, like how I am, like the vibe that I have in our marriage, I wonder if it happens more
in marriages like that, where the woman is not fulfilling the role of like soft, sweet, sexy vixen. You know what I mean? Like not the little.
Well, I think it goes hand in hand. Like if you're like talking about a different subject, like masculine, feminine polarity, it's okay for you to have a masculine side, right? But
my beard.
Thank Jesus. You don't have that. But there's more. Okay, look at it from a pie chart or something. You're more feminine than masculine, right? But sometimes you do more masculine things. So the polarity in that, I have to just basically, people may hate this, and I don't know. This is just like very kind of like fourth grade thinking about it. But what am I doing? Am I going, oh, well, she's 20% masculine, so she'll do the thing? Am I just like going down in my masculine polarity, which will what? Cause you to raise yours up, which will cause me to be less attracted to you, or you less attracted to me. Yeah. And then we're just in a goofy spiral. Yeah. Understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. So there's a really weird, and we don't talk about this almost at all on our show. It's sort of a new conversation that we're having and trying to understand. But I think that there's a dynamic of, I want to say feminine and masculine, of like softness in a woman. And I know that sounds weird and people probably will get upset about it, but
why does that sound weird?
Some people will be offended by that. Because I mean, I know that me 2 years ago would have been like, I don't need to be soft, you butthole. Sometimes I think it's funny to say that. But I think it's important to factor this in because again, I've seen a trend with the clients that we've had where there's this, it's either, again, it's sometimes it's a biological thing, get that. Sometimes it's an unspoken expectation that is like forcing its way into the bedroom each time you go to try to have sex. And maybe the husband is like, well, she should want it all the time. She should ask for sex. She should, and that's causing the problem. Or the wife is just like cold, super, I don't know, masculine is not the right word, but just like not soft, not receptive, not whatever. And again, these are just the patterns that we've seen. So I'm just saying what I see.
No man wants a masculine woman.
I'm sure lots of men want a masculine woman. You don't want a masculine
about cussed.
woman. Don't cuss. It doesn't need to be cussed at. Call it a butthole.
It's right next to the butthole. That's what those men are.
Enough. You
understand what I'm saying?
Yes, that was really funny.
Do women want me?
Some women do. You cannot put
I don't care.
There's lots of variety in the world and it doesn't matter if you care or not. But in this situation, I just want to throw that out there. And if you're a person in a sexless marriage, ask yourself if you see a pattern of this, and it's going to make you prickle and sting at it. You're not going to like it. You're going to get your heckles up when I say it. And that is probably evidence that it's true. So anyway, thank you for sending in this question. I hope that what we said helps. I hope that our answers were helpful. You can shoot us another message and let us know. Seth is doing something. What's he doing?
You're hitting the desk. But I do want to talk about the Power Couple Planner. If you're having trouble with masculine and feminine polarity, if you're a dude, buy this book, plan it out.
Or if you're
Seriously.
a woman.
It's the Power Couple Planner. Go to anatomyofus.com. And also, we have high performance marriage coaching, and we're changing the name of high performance marriage coaching. It's like kick-ass individual coaching, that when you kick ass as an individual, your marriage will kick ass. So if you want that and it sounds good and you're willing to dive in financially and time-wise, then do it. We're not messing around. So do it.
You're going to love it. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so
guys.
much.
Yep. Thank
Remember,
you so much.
rate and review the show, and we'll talk to you later.
All right. Bye.